Welcome to our Pharmacy Frontiers podcast. I'm Daniel Good. I'm joined with my co-host Tim Mitchell. Today, we'd like to share with you our new inaugural Pharmacy Frontiers podcast brought to you by MPA. Today's topic is just to talk you through what our plan is and what we plan to do in the future with this podcast going into the fall and into the winter. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you. I'm excited about the opportunity to be able to chat with everybody and have some cool topics.
So Tim, where did this whole idea come from?
I don't know. You and I were just talking prior to the podcast, and I said, where did this idea come from? And you said, Tim, it was you. So, and I'm okay with that. But I think, we were talking about some interesting ways to be able to kind of connect with people. And I know during the pandemic, I really listened to a lot of podcasts to try to keep connected with what was going on in pharmacy. And I think podcasts have really began growing in not just pharmacy profession, but all over. And, I thought, this would be something cool to be able to add to what Missouri Pharmacy Association is doing, because I know some other organizations that are doing it as well. So I was excited to be able to be involved. I really thought we were just going to kind of do something. And then they said, Tim, if it's your idea, why don't you go ahead and do it? And so now look what's happening. So Dan and Tim are doing something. So
Tim, I agree. I think in this modern era of social media and instant communication, I think our membership really wants to have quicker access to information. And if we can do something in a more personal way by having these conversations and maybe get some of those good topics that are kind of gritty and things that are fun and interesting, that might work out well for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like connecting with the younger generation as well. And I think just the way that I grew up communicating with people is much different now than now. So I'm excited. I still think there's other ways to communicate with people, but I'm excited to be involved here. So
I think there's a ton of topics out there just waiting to be talked about. And there's some things that are already been done by other national media outlets. But for us here in Missouri, I think we can really share some of the best practices going on, whether it's a charitable pharmacy or an HIV pharmacy, or how you might use a community health worker in your pharmacy. Those kind of topics I think our membership would like to hear about.
I agree. I think there's a lot of really timely topics. And, part of this came out of our continuing education committee that I serve on, and we were discussing whether or not this would be an appropriate place to add continuing education. And I don't know if it's completely, we could do continuing education, and, we may be able to kind of move into that area. But I think right now, I think it's important to just kind of test some topics out, kind of see where we're at, throw some things out there, maybe bring some people in that have some timely things going on. But there may be some opportunities to be able to offer continuing education to people out there that are listeners that want to try to get, and maybe we can do that quarterly or, a couple times a year kind of thing or something. So.
Yeah, I think there's lots of people in our state that are very high performing, whether it be our Bowl Hygeia winners or maybe even the students that win the business competition from UMKC. It'd be good to have those guests on here. I think that there's different national thought leaders we might be able to invite in to have a conversation with, whether it's about best practice in patient care, or if it's about advocacy and how to elevate your advocacy game. But I think there's lots of topics that would also be practical. Conversation with a state board inspector and why you don't need to fear the inspector, or even bring in someone from Missouri Health Net to talk about how to maximize your reimbursement within Medicaid. Those kind of things would be very practical for our membership.
Absolutely. And then, the other part of that is, talking about, events that are upcoming, or, things where people can connect and make even more of a connection, and then bringing the CE into those events, or, other types of connections for just learning opportunities. I totally agree. I think this is going to be a good platform. And we're excited to work with Missouri Pharmacy Association and give them the opportunity to talk about some of the things that they're doing to cause some more conversation to occur, and, make connections with people. So anyhow, excited about that.
And it's not going to take a lot of time, right? We're thinking, anywhere from 6 minutes to 25 minutes, right? It's the amount of time it takes you to commute to work, or amount of time it takes you to drop off the kids at a soccer game, or maybe just a walk around the block is the time you listen to your podcast. We want to make it very accessible for all of our members.
Right. And yeah, those podcasts can run all over. I know, this one today is going to be fairly short because we're just rambling about different things that we're talking about. But I do feel like if we have an interesting topic, it might be, good 25, 30 minutes. If it's something where we're just trying to introduce something and, kind of get some, gain some interest, then it could be 15 or so. That being said, I think it's an exciting opportunity. Happy to be involved. We may have some other people that want to be involved with the podcast down the road, and if you've got some interest, let us know. But there's an email on the podcast here. If you see that, if you've got ideas on some things that you would like to maybe try to get out there. Now, we're not necessarily looking to try to sell things to people, like if you've got a trinket or something you're wanting to sell. I think what we're looking at are topics that may be interesting for people to, give them more information. You certainly, if you got ideas of things, send the email. We'll certainly look and see if it's something appropriate for the podcast for Pharmacy Frontiers for the state of Missouri. And, it could be nationwide. I'm not limiting listeners to just people that live in Missouri. I'm going to send this out to my friends that are nationwide to, let them listen and help us gain our listenership. So anyhow.
So that email address to send in those ideas is pfpodcastmo@gmail.com. Again, that's P as in pharmacy, F as in frontier, podcast, MO as in Missouri, @gmail.com. And this is going to be available to you not only on the podcast, but through our MPA social media sites, through our MPA website. You'll be able to see that actual email as well. And then when it comes time to actually publish and put these podcasts out, you'll be receiving notifications through your weekly newsletter from MPA. You'll be receiving access through the MPA website. And of course, you'll be able to access the Pharmacy Frontiers podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast on the go.
That's awesome. That sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to getting involved and being able to get some of this information out there to people. So anyhow, we got anything else you want to talk about, or is that going to cover?
No, Tim, I'm looking forward to partnering with you on this. And I know that we have a half a dozen or so items that we've already lined up to do podcasts on, and there's another 2 dozen in the list. So looking forward to getting started, and looking forward to having more people join us and then give us comments on what they think about the new Pharmacy Frontiers podcast.